All right, everybody, welcome back to the KSR YouTube channel, where we are in the middle of a Florida storm, and we've been getting warnings on our phone for like the last hour that it was going to be 70-80 mile an hour winds, which is a lot for a Florida spring storm. Ooh, something just blew down over there. Oh, they're like a little banner thing over there. It's definitely windy, but I haven't seen like, I mean, yeah, it's a little windy. Not as bad as we've seen, but it definitely, you could hear the front come through almost, because all of a sudden stuff started hitting the building, and it was kind of weird. But today is actually Friday, and I'm going to start working on more of the Cutlass. So that'll be this will end up being my Sunday video. But it's right there. And we're gonna get started on doing some more stuff. Tying the hoop down to the dash bar. And there's another piece that I ended up picking up in Indy that's gonna really affect a lot of this. Which I'm not quite sure I'm gonna get to that this video, but stay tuned and let's see. All right, well, it's after hours again, because that's how these things go when it comes to working on my Cutlass. You know, I try to get my stuff done when I'm not working on customer stuff, like Val's Camaro over there. And we got quite a bit done on that this week, which should have already done some video on that for Tuesday and Wednesday's work, but not all of Thursday and Friday's stuff. So it's actually Saturday night now. And yeah, like I said, I'm down here real late working on my car. And kind of realized that this video is going to be coming out on Mother's Day. So I wanted to wish all the moms out there happy Mother's Day, and for those of you that still have your moms, give them a call, talk to them. May have been a little while. Hopefully you're spending time with them on Mother's Day. So a little personal story time here that I haven't talked about yet, but right in the early stages of me getting the channel up and going, back in 2020, like really started putting some effort into it. Actually, Cletus was kind of pushing me along a little bit. I was working on the Dale truck, worked on Ruby a little bit with him at the racetrack, and working on Leroy, tuning on Leroy and stuff with the new Holly system. And my mom unexpectedly died back in June of 2023. And you know, it sucked. I'm not gonna lie. So, I didn't tell too many people. People kind of found out. And actually, one of the last things that I had talked to her about was how there might actually be something with this YouTube stuff. Like for me to, you know, put myself out on YouTube. And not long after that conversation is when she passed away. So, one of the things that, because you guys didn't know all of that story, one of the things that kind of brought me back, I guess, to YouTube was Cletus invited me to go on Rocky Mountain Race Week. So I won't lie that I kind of, you know, it was tough times for both my dad and my sister. And so it was actually our old buddy Cletus that helped get me out of a pretty dark place in my life. So brought me back, did Rocky Mountain Race Week, and the rest is kind of history. It kept moving forward, and that's all you can do in life, right? So that's what we're gonna keep doing tonight. work on my Cutlass. And since the last video, I kind of ended it where I had the hoop in place but not totally fit. So now it is fit up very nice, as you can tell by that gap there. And what I've done, well, you can see those marks. Maybe. Yeah. So what I did is I measured from center each direction, and for this I knew about generally where the bars were going to fit up. So what I did is I marked, like, that's just a 0, that's a 1, that's a 2. So basically every ½ inch I put a mark, and then I numbered them so I would know which numbers I was trying to work with to get them even. And you might be able to tell that that is the same, like where the notch is, the inside of the notch, that's the same on each side. So kind of one of my little tricks for getting those upper hoops centered in the car and all that fun stuff. So I'm going to do a gusset here because I won't be able to fully weld this because it fits so tight to the roof. Won't be able to fully weld it until I take the body off. Let's make sure I make that clear. So we're going to go ahead and gusset here, and I will gusset it on that side, even though I don't really have to because of the funny car cage that'll be over there. But I like the symmetry of a corner gusset on each side, and it's literally a couple of ounces. Figure I can afford that. Just like the way it looks better. Anywho, one of the things I also try and do, let's get the level. The frame rails in this thing, zero that on that, and then we put it on the bottom there. Oh, come on, you were level a minute ago. Oh, maybe I didn't have it zeroed right. There it is. Close enough. We're within 0.15 of a degree, and I think it's probably between that. So it's probably like 0.076, because just one little wiggle and it goes back to 0. And also, I really like to have all of my horizontal tubes. So 0 and 0. And I don't know about a lot of the other fabricators out there, but 0.00 is my favorite number when it comes to doing all this chassis type stuff. Just making sure that your horizontals fore and aft and your horizontals across the car are all parallel with each other. And the old digital angle cube that I like to use is really good for figuring that out. And yeah, for those of you body guys out there, whew, we got some work to do here. And back in my 15, 16-year-old self, just smeared that full of Bondo. And now I have to deal with that. There's also a pretty good bit of rust, like on the back side of this panel. I noticed on that side. So when I take the body off, we're gonna have to put some rust treatment in there and try and stop this from happening. As you can see, it's got pinholes in it because that's rusting through from the inside. So this car originally had a half vinyl top from here backwards, and moisture got in here, rusted this out, rusted out around the back quarter window, as well as, you know, once moisture got in here, it could run between this panel and the under panel. Kind of made a mess of everything. So anyways, I'm going to weld that in, do the gussets, and then start working on the A-pillar bars. So, it's late. Got some work to do. Just told a sad story. Might have been able to hear it in my voice. But, you know, we're 4 years from that now. Still miss my mom every day. But, right now, we're building race cars. So that's what we're going to do. All right, well, you guys just got to know me a little bit better, and thank you for sticking through that and continuing on with the video. If you want to check your subscription while you're here, you know, down in the bottom right-hand corner, there should be a little button there for you to subscribe to the channel, and you can follow along with all of the builds we've got going on at KSR, as well as, you know, some of the shenanigans we get ourselves into. All of the guys in the shop have some projects, and we're going to be showing a little bit more of them in the future. At least that's what we hope to do. I still have some race edits to do. I have the Freedom 500 from this year, the Indy 800 from just a couple weeks ago, the Indy 800 from last year, and the Bristol 1000 from last year. All of those, well, the Indy 800 this year wasn't that great, at least for me, but it was awesome seeing Zach get out there and race with Tony Stewart, wheel to wheel and door to door, and end up taking home the win. But if I didn't mention it earlier, because I think I didn't, but he already knows all of this, but big thanks to Cletus for, you know, looking out for a buddy when he knew I was going through some stuff. And if you guys have a friend going through something, reach out to him and see what you can do to help him out. You never know when that extra phone call might just make someone's day. So let's get to work on the Cutlass, which has been going on in the time lapse here in the background. And we're back and forth, and I've already got the roof hoop, let's call it. It's already welded in. At least the inside corners of it are welded, because I'm trying not to weld it too much so that it flexes and pulls with the weld on it, because typically, you know, the welding, when you weld two pieces of tube together, a lot of times you get a little bit of movement there, and when the bar that you're welding is sticking out and is unsupported, like the roof hoop is there, you know, my little pole that's there on the left, that's not doing a whole lot. That's not going to prevent it from flexing too much. You know, I don't want it to go crazy pulling around, so I welded a decent bit of it, but not the full amount. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with the gussets here, and that is get a little bit of weld on them, like kind of just enough to hold them in place, plus a little bit extra. You know, I think there's probably 1/4 to 1/2 inch on each joint that I dab on here. And then the idea is that we will get the A-pillar bars made out there at the sides of the front window opening. And then we will go ahead and weld as much of all of those joints as we can. So, double checking my level here, I actually used a little piece of wood to space the roof hoop, roof halo, I don't know, whatever we want to call it. That, I think it was 3/8 or 1/2 of an inch off the roof is what it took to get the roof hoop all in a nice, well, it's in the same plane as the bars in the floor of the car. So kind of my process for this bar, because I know there's going to be 2 different planes here, and I try a couple of different options, maybe with 1 bend, maybe with 2 bends, and I decide on a 2 bend option. And I first started with some scrap tubing just to kind of give me a rough idea. And then the piece that I'm using now, or the tool that I'm using now, is from a company called Cage Gauge. You can look them up on their website. It's actually some friends that I race with, or the owner is a friend that I used to race with in the Champ Car Endurance Series. And he came up with these a few years ago, and it's like a billet adjustable thing that lets you mock up roll cage bends and use thin wall PVC pipe. And PVC pipe is a heck of a lot cheaper than roll bar tubing. So it's kind of nice in that, there's a better picture of it on the bench. You can see there's a little thumb knob there that you can loosen and then swivel the middle of that around to mock up your bend. Now I actually have 3 of these so that I could mock up this entire bar with the cage gauges, cage gauge eye, whatever the right plural of that word is. And I could mock up all of those pieces, or the multiple bends, because the bends are actually in different planes. And the nice flat surfaces on the cage gauge lets you kind of figure out the angle of rotation for your next bend. So, with all that being said, I had kind of got a pretty good idea of what rotation I needed from part of the measuring that I was doing earlier. So I get my first bend in, hop over to the Rogue Fab bender, put the first bend in it, put the second bend in it after the rotation, and then bring it back over to the car to kind of start getting an idea of where exactly the notches are going to be. And on the end of the tube that is up at the top of the windshield, the bend is so close to the notch area that I cannot use my notcher. So I end up hand notching that one. And then on the base, where it lands on the dash bar, that is at least long enough where I can use my notcher. I know that it's at a little bit of an angle, so I set the notcher at 10 degrees, which ends up being too much. End up knocking it back to 5 degrees, and then it kind of ends up being a little bit between the two of those. So rather than completely redo the notch again, I just ended up hand grinding it to fit as well. And as you're about to see, this took a little while. And I ended up taking the body loose from where it was bolted to the door jamb area on the dash bar there, because initially the body had to be lifted up to get this bar into the spot it needed to go into, which I am glad that I started, a little bit on the long side, because it's a heck of a lot easier to shorten a bar than it is to lengthen a bar. And if I were to scrap this tube by notching it too much, I would have to start completely over again. Now, usually the second one of a mess up does go quite a bit faster, but if you don't have to go back and redo it, it's kind of nice. And I guess one of the ways I do things a lot of times with these bars that are more complicated than I probably need to make them, like with this A-pillar bar, I just keep nipping away at it little bit by little bit by little bit to get it just right, so that it's got, a really good fit up, so it'll weld really nice, it'll be really strong. But let me tell you, sometimes it is tedious. So as I got the notches closer, I was able to bolt the body back on, and I had to be mindful of that because I did not want to get the bar fit like I did earlier and then not be able to get that bolt back through to the dash bar. That's what's going to secure the dash bar or the door jamb part of the body to the chassis. And there's going to be some other mounting spots here and there. There's a chance I make the firewall removable. Still kind of in the planning stages for that, but I'm also going to have some tabs that come off the front of that roof halo that's going to tie into the windshield frame so that, you know, the upper part of the windshield is tied directly to the cage. There's also going to be a windshield spine down the center part of the window because I do plan to run optic armor windows in the car. So that's something I need to take into consideration before I have the chassis powder coated. Have you guys ever started on something, had like a thought process for where you wanted to go with it, and then the execution of that idea took 10 times longer than you thought it was gonna? Yeah, that's me right now. And it's like 2:45 in the morning. Yeah. But we've got a really nice fitting bar there. And I was kind of going for the look of like it tucking really close to the body, but it still needs to be able to come out. So there is a gap. It's a little one, but there's a gap. And I turned it up here too so that it would have a nice fit there. And there's going to be gussets there anyway, like, I don't know, probably across here, maybe the inside. I don't know yet. Might be both sides. But I mean, I'm happy with it. It looks cool. Was it necessary to do that? No. But I mean, like, it does look good. Like, it blends in really nice with the A-pillar there. I mean, lands really nicely on the door or the dash bar there. Still level. I did check that. Yeah, I'm tired. Now I got to go home and edit this so that I can get it out in the morning. Okay. I'm going to pat myself on the back for that one. Even though it's not really necessary at all, but it'll kind of blend in behind the window when I put the windshield in. But anyways, that's going to wrap it up for this video because, like I said, I'm tired. And I'm ready to go home. So for those of you that made it this far, if you're not a subscriber already, please subscribe. Check your subscription because it's weird. My subs go up and then they go down. And they go up and then they go down. I don't know why. But it'd be cool to have a continuing trend up again. Maybe eventually we'll get to 500,000, maybe even 1 million. Might take us a little while. But as always, I appreciate all of you following along, the words of encouragement. And like I said earlier, call your mom today. Wish her a happy Mother's Day. Even if you're not watching this on Mother's Day, call your mom today. See how she's doing. Check in on her. You might make her day to hear from you. For those of us that can't, we wish that we still could. So, with that being said, see you guys next time.